So here's a riddle for you. How many narcissistic people does it take to ruin a system? Now, this isn't a light bulb joke, but if you want to treat it as that, the answer to this is 1. The system could be a family, it could be a workplace, it could be a friend group, it could be a classroom, it could be a social gathering. Maybe not even a group you are regularly a part of, but something that comes together, like a party, even an impromptu party, or a planned one, like a wedding or a conference, that sort of thing. Now, you may work in a company with thousands of people, but don't know them. Your corner of that workplace, a department, a division, a regional office, may be much smaller. Okay? It only takes 1. It's actually quite incredible. It's like a potent toxin, and just 1 drop of it in a big barrel can still make everyone who drinks it sick. Understanding how just 1 narcissistic or antagonistic or toxic person can upend a system means understanding how groups work. On average, all things being equal, most groups are harmonious, especially if they are brought together for a shared reason. Whether that is a family or a workplace or a social group, there is some sort of shared values or belonging that underlies it. So people kind of on their own figure out the sort of rules of order of the group and work together within it. And they make sure things are kind of handed out equally, that people are heard or listened to, and people are made to feel as though they belong. Well, you need to put only 1 toxic, narcissistic person into a system, and the whole thing goes upside down. Even if it's a few hundred people, 1 narcissistic person will monopolize the conversation, demand to be the one who speaks the most often, who asks all the questions, has the best seat, who will say abrupt, outlandish, or even hurtful things and feel entitled to say them, test limits, break rules you never even thought to write down as rules. They don't care if people don't feel safe. In fact, in some ways, they may like it because that allows them to be in power because people feel destabilized and they make fun of them. They will interrupt, change the rules, demand that things be done the way that they want them. They will make a day that is not about them, for example, someone else's birthday party or wedding or a guest speaker, and they will make that about them. And they will insert themselves into the middle of it. They will violate boundaries. People will feel that they have to give in to the toxic person so the whole group can run more smoothly. They are the person who will constantly ask questions and make comments in a classroom and interrupt the ability for other people to learn. 1 person can upend an entire system. And ironically, while narcissistic people do have that uncanny ability to read a room because they are quite socially perceptive, they don't care if their behavior is disruptive in that room because they don't care about the people in it. They feel entitled to making every space their space that works for them, that is about them. The rules of the group, they just don't apply to them. So what that means is that, yes, 1 narcissistic person can ruin the dynamics of a group. Put a dark cloud on a party, let their entitled behavior make an entire meeting uncomfortable, create an unsafe atmosphere in a classroom. Think about it. Because I know you have been in this situation, that you are part of some group or system where there may be just 1 narcissistic person. And the one time, or some of the times that they are not there, the system works beautifully. Everyone exhales, and you see what is possible. And it sucks when that happens only 1 time. For example, the narcissistic person is not at that 1 session, but shows up the next week. The difference can be quite remarkable at how the group runs when the narcissist is there and then when they're not there. We will often find ourselves running around in circles to accommodate this one person and let them keep making pronouncements that really aren't questions, or rearranging the seating, or rescheduling, or appeasing, or walking on eggshells. We may rework menus, have to make last-minute game day changes to how things are run, add and edit and revise workplace procedures and policies, because just when you thought of every messed up thing that someone could do in the workplace, the narcissistic folks are always able to come up with one more. Many times, it is almost hard to believe that one person can turn a system upside down like that. We think that we can't be right about that. How can one person blow up a group of a few hundred people, or an event with 400 people added, or a workplace comprised of 50 people, or a classroom of 30 students, or a holiday dinner of 10, or a friend group of 4? The larger the group, it's almost like the less you can believe how much harm that just one person's toxicity can cause. And because everybody still thinks that we are in second grade and we all have to get along with each other, we often won't track that it is in fact just one, maybe 2 people who can make this big a mess out of it. And make no mistake, if people get to a point where they can no longer endure it, and someone takes the narcissistic person aside and says, "Hey, can you cool it? This is someone's special day, and you're spoiling it." Or, "Can you please just give someone else a chance to speak?" Or, "Stop making this about you." They will either play the victim or lash out and tell the people telling them to shut the hell up or stop being so selfish that they are the problem, gaslight, etc. You get it, right? There's no telling this person to rein it in. Narcissism is such a destabilizing dynamic in groups, and yet most organizations and groups are unwilling to call it out. Corporate wonks and academic enablers will say, "Well, everyone has a different style," or "Let's make space for the different ways that people show up." Nah. Narcissistic people bring groups and organizations down and silence the other people in a group. And depending on the nature of the group, if the narcissistic person is never hemmed in, over time it's even conceivable that the group can become physically unsafe. It certainly will be psychologically unsafe. And you will then start to see that the healthiest people leave the group first, thinking, "This isn't worth my time anymore." What is then left is a smaller group in which the narcissistic person's influence is less diluted, and more harmful to the people who remain. Narcissistic people may also be the reason that systems actually fail and get dismantled. The well-intentioned people who set it up may just surrender and say, "This isn't worth it." And what may have started as a well-intentioned effort may be run into the ground because there was no easy way to remove the narcissistic person. So you just sink the boat. This obviously applies even more when the narcissistic person in the group is higher up in the hierarchy. For example, the patriarch or the matriarch of the family, the leader, the manager, whatever it be, or whomever it may be. Because that means everyone is screwed. The system will never get untoxic if the leader is narcissistic, and nobody is going to tell the emperor that he's not wearing any clothes. Interestingly, while more power can definitely mean that there's less recourse if a narcissistic person is in a system, even a person with very little power in a group, as long as they're entitled, pathologically selfish, manipulative, attention-seeking, dysregulated, aggrieved, and perpetually a victim, can destroy a group and turn what could be a pleasant gathering or meeting or class or lecture, whatever, into a tense, unpleasant, conflictual, and icky experience. One in which people feel shut down. It's a shame that businesses don't address the narcissistic folks in their midst. It would foster so much more potential in the more agreeable, healthy people in the workplace. But instead, most workplaces, most groups sacrifice lots of empathic, patient, decent people in the name of making sure that the one narcissistic person is comfortable. It just takes one drop of poison that makes everyone who drinks from that well sick. And we often think, it can't be just one person. There's so many of us. How can that be? How can one person have caused all this havoc? And we'll doubt it. Believe it. And the evidence is there, especially when you see how different the group, the event, and the workplace feels when that person is no longer there. So yeah, the answer to that riddle, just one. Thanks again.